Hey, Louisian Gems, how was your first week of indulging yourselves on the concept of personal development? I hope that you were able to fully understand and appreciate the processes of human development and also the factors affecting the growth and development of an individual like you. This week's lesson will be focusing on knowing oneself and also the factors that affect the development of the self. Okay? The lesson also includes the discussion of the changes that you are experiencing as you go on the different stages of adolescence. And also the different personality theories created by well-known writers and philosophers. So be ready, brace yourself as we go on with our discussion of knowing ourselves. Have you ever asked yourself this question? Who am I? If you have, you are not alone because adolescence is the time when young people start to ask questions about themselves. Okay? Not only about themselves, but also about their future and even about their religious and political belief. And during the adolescent stage of development, the young person grapples with his or her identity. And this may seem very philosophical to some, but to know oneself is the first step in personal development. As Socrates had said, that it seems ridiculous for him to investigate other unimportant things when he has not known himself yet. So for Socrates, the most important thing to pursue is self-knowledge. And admitting one's ignorance is the beginning of true knowledge. And for Plato, the beginning of knowledge is self-knowledge. Other ancient philosophers like Aristotle, okay, and philosophers from other cultures saw wisdom in knowing oneself. And before we discuss how to know oneself, we have to define first the concept of the self. What do we mean when we refer to the self? The self in personal development is an individual person as the object of its own consciousness. It also consists of thoughts, feelings, actions, experiences, belief, values, and principles. Meaning to say, it is composed of union of elements. The body, the thoughts, the emotions, the sensations. And in philosophical terms, the self is the being, which is the source of a person's consciousness. It is the agent, okay, responsible for an individual's thoughts and action. So the self here is a person's essential being that distinguishes them from others, okay, especially considered as the object of introspection or reflexive action. So the self then here is the distinct individuality or identity of a person. One concept that is related to the self is the phenomenal field. This phenomenal field was developed by Carl Rogers and also by Donald Snigg and Arthur Comte. Okay, they were the proponents of the phenomenal field. And what is all about the phenomenal field? This refers to a person's subjective reality, which includes external objects and people, as well as internal thoughts and emotion. So the phenomenal field here is our subjective reality, the world that we are aware of, okay, including our physical objects and people around us, our behaviors, our thoughts, our images, fantasies, feelings, and ideas. Okay? Ideas like what? Like justice, freedom, equality, and so on. Okay? And Snig and Com emphasize that self is the true subject matter for psychology. And so, if we wish to understand and predict people's behavior, we need to get at their phenomenal field. And since we can't observe it directly, we need to infer it. Meaning to say, we need to infer it from the things that we can observe. Like we can record behavior, give various tests, talk to the person, and so on. Okay? Because SNIG and COMS are open to a variety of methods. And if we have different way of observing a person, okay, we will eventually come to understand the person's phenomenal field or the self. Yan. So, the person's motivations and environments both act as their phenomenal field. So how do you view yourself? Do you have what we call self-concept? And what do we mean by self-concept? Self-concept refers to how you think of yourself, how you evaluate yourself, or how you perceive yourself. Okay? So self-concept here generally speaks of our individual perceptions of our behavior, okay? Our individual perceptions of our abilities, and our unique characteristic. It is somewhat a mental picture of who we are as a person. For example, our beliefs such as I am a good friend or I am a kind person. These are all part of an overall self-concept. Okay? And do you know that self-concept tends to be more flexible when people are younger? This is possible because young people are still going through the process of self-discovery and identity formation. And as people age, self-perceptions become much more detailed and much more organized as people form a better idea of who they are and what is important to them. Ang gandang pakinggan. So self-concept here also refers as a collection of belief. A collection of belief about oneself and the responses of others. Actually, self-concept here embodies the answer to the question, who am I? In fact, humanist psychologist Carl Rogers believed that there were three different parts of self-concept. We have self-image, self-esteem, and ideal self. Carl Rogers, referring to self-image, argued on how you see yourself. Meaning to say, each individual self-image is a mixture of different attributes, including our physical characteristics, also our personality traits, and our social roles. Self-image then here doesn't necessarily coincide with reality because some people might have an inflated self-image of themselves while others may perceive or exaggerate their flaws and weaknesses that others don't see. Are you sometimes like this when you view yourself? Okay. How about self-esteem? Self-esteem refers to how much you value yourself. And a number of factors can impact self-esteem. So there are factors that can really affect the development of our self-esteem, including how we compare ourselves to others and how others respond to us. So when people respond positively to our behavior, we are more likely to develop positive self-esteem. Diba? And when we compare ourselves to others and find ourselves lacking, it can have a negative impact on our self-esteem. Okay? Now, how about the ideal self? The ideal self here refers to how you wish you could be. And in many cases, the way we see ourselves and how we would like to see ourselves do not quite match up. But if the way we see ourselves and how we would like to see ourselves match together, then we will have what we call self-actualization. Okay? Have you ever wondered who you really are deep down inside? Because there is this self of a person that refers to those attributes or areas of experience about which the person can say, I am. It's about how honest and authentic is our self-awareness. And then, there's a sense of a self also, of a person saying, I would like to be. It's the human capacity to strive for fulfillment and greater integration. And this self saying, I would like to be, is the path to self-actualization. So this self-image refers to the real self and the ideal self. But the question is, do you know the difference? The real self refers to who we actually are. It is how we think, how we feel, how we look, and how we act. The real self can be seen by others, but because we have no way of truly knowing how others view us, the real self then is our self-image. The ideal self, on the other hand, refers to how we want to be. It is an idealized image that we have developed over time based on what we have learned and experienced. So the ideal self could include components of what our parents have taught us. It also includes what we admire in others, what our society promotes, and what we think is in our best interest. But a person's ideal self may not be consistent with what actually happens in life and experiences of the person. Therefore, a difference may exist between a person's ideal self and his actual experience or his actual real self. Now, here's the thing when we talk about the ideal self and the real self. There is what we call the importance of alignment. Because if the way that I am, the real self, is aligned with the way that I want to be, the ideal self, then I will feel a sense of mental well-being or peace of mind. But if the way that I am is not aligned with how I want to be, let us say there is incongruence or lack of alignment, then it will result in mental distress or anxiety. And I tell you, the greater the level of incongruency between the ideal self and the real self, then the greater the level of resulting distress. Like for example, my ideal self-image includes honesty. Okay? Now, when my parents asked me why I was late coming home from a night out, and I am honest and tell them that I didn't want to leave the party because I was having such a great time, then despite the ramifications, like being reprimanded, for example, I will feel a sense of mental well-being. But if I am dishonest and tell them that my car wouldn't start, then the misalignment between my real self and my ideal self will result in mental distress or anxiety. The fact that I lied results in negative feelings. At naman tayo, di ba? Pag nagsisinungaling, meron pa rin yung part na parang nakokonsensya ka. Or you have this negative feeling kung bakit ka nagsinungaling. See? So there is an importance of alignment between the real self and ideal self. Because if they are congruent, then we will have a sense of mental well-being or peace of mind. At sino naman ang ayaw magkaroon ng peace of mind? Diba? Important concept that is related in knowing the self is the concept of personality. And when we say personality, it refers to the combination of characteristics or qualities that form an individual's distinctive character. It also refers to the set of behaviors, feelings, thoughts, and motives that identifies an individual. So personality here as a concept embraces our moods, attitudes, our opinions, and is most clearly expressed when we interact with other people. Okay? And personality also includes our behavioral characteristic, both inherent and acquired, and that distinguish one person from another. And it can also be observed in people's relation to the environment and to the social group or to the people in the society. Personality is influenced by both nature and nurture. Okay? And there is no single gene that creates a trait. It is always a complex combination of genes and also environmental exposure, experiences, and cultural backgrounds, and other factors that contribute to the personality development or to personality development. So let us learn about nature and nurture. Nature or heredity as one factor that affects personality development is being influenced by genetic inheritance and other biological factors. Okay? And those who adopt an extreme hereditary position are known as nativists. And nativism refers to extreme nature position, and their basic assumption is that the characteristics of the human species as a whole are a product of evolution, and that individual differences are due to each person's unique genetic code. Nurture, or the environment, is generally taken as the influence of external factors after conception, like the product of our exposure to our environment, our experiences, and our learning as an individual. So nurture here describes the influence of learning and other influences from one's environment. Okay? And those who believe about the nurture or the environment as a factor affecting human development, we call them as empiricists. And the nature versus nurture debate involves whether human behavior is determined by the environment or by a person's genes. But instead of defending extreme nativist or nurturist views, most psychological researchers today are now interested in investigating how nature and how nurture interact in a person or to a person in different ways. Let's also discuss about trait theory. Trait theory here is an approach in identifying types of personalities based on certain traits or attributes which vary from one person to the other. Trait theory was in fact developed over the past 60 years, started by Fiske. I don't know if I am correct with that, Fiske or Fiske, okay, in 1949, and later pursued by other researchers, including the researchers Smith, Goldberg, and the well-known Costa and McCrae. 1992, psychologists Costa and McCrae developed a categorized scheme that describes personality. They called it five-factor model. And based on their research, they discovered the existence of five universal and widely agreed upon dimensions of personality. And what are these? We have openness to experience, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. When we say openness to experience, it refers to our curiosity, our interest, our imagination, and our creativity to new ideas. And if you have this kind of trait, there is a tendency for us to appreciate new ideas. Okay? Not only new ideas, but also new values, new feelings, and even new arts. Yan. Conscientiousness, on the other hand, refers to planning, organizing, hardworking, controlling, and persevering. And also punctuality. And if we have this conscientiousness as our personality trait, then we have the tendency to become careful. Okay? We also have the tendency that we are on time. For example, in going to school, okay? On time for appointments. And we follow rules. And we are hardworking individuals. Extraversion as personality trait refers to being sociable, being talkative, outgoing, active, and fun-loving. And if this is present in our personality trait, okay, or if this is one of our personality trait, we will have the tendency to become talkative, sociable, okay, and to enjoy others. And now, how about agreeableness? Agreeableness refers to being friendly, warm, trusting, generous, and kind-hearted. And if we have this as our personality trait, we will have a tendency to go along with others than on our own opinion and choices. Ito kumbaga yung lagi kang sumasang-ayon sa opinion or choices ng iba. And you set aside your own choice and opinion. Okay? Nakakabuti kaya yon? What do you think? And lastly, but of equal importance, is neuroticism or neuroticism. Sorry. Neuroticism refers to sadness, moodiness, and emotional instability. And when we are having this kind of personality trait, we have a tendency, okay, to be exposed to emotions. Not only positive emotions, but also there is a tendency for us to frequently experience negative emotions. Okay? So those are the big five. Okay? The big five factor model of Costa and McCrae. And these are considered to be universal and widely agreed upon dimensions of personality. Aside from the five-factor model of personality trait, we also have the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or the MBTI. It was developed by Catherine Briggs and Isabel Briggs Myers. They were sisters, by the way. And this MBTI is a personality model based on four preferences of individuals. These four preferences will be discussed later, okay, as we go on with our discussion. And MBTI was actually an adaptation of Carl Jung's study entitled The Psychological Types. One of the four preferences of MBTI is extraversion or introversion. Extraversion is now known today as extroversion. Okay? And E or I refers on how an individual prefers to channel his or her energy when dealing with people, whether it is inward or outward. And when you have extraversion as a preference or a personality, you like getting your energy from active involvement in events, for example, and having a lot of different activities. You are also excited when you are around people and you like to energize other people, or when you like moving into action and making things happen. Okay? So those are manifestations of being an extrovert person. Introversion or introversion, on the other hand, refers to a person who like getting their energy or his energy from dealing with the ideas, from dealing with memories, okay, that are inside his or her head or his or her inner world. So, being an introvert person, you prefer doing things alone or with one or two people that you feel comfortable with. And you also like to take time to reflect so that you have a clear idea of what you'll be doing when you decide to act. Or when you say you are comfortable being alone and you like things that you can do on your own, or when you prefer to know just a few people well. Those are the manifestations of being an introvert person. Another preference in the MBTI is S or I, sensing or intuition. This refers to how one prefers to process information, whether the use of senses, such as being able to describe one sees, or intuitively like dealing with ideas. If sensing is present to a person, then paying attention is mostly to physical reality, or what I see, for example, what I hear, what I touch, what I taste and smell are what matters. Okay? And I'm concerned with what is actual, what is present, what is real. And I notice facts and I remember details that are important to me. So those are the manifestation of having sensing as a preference in personality trait. On the other hand, intuition refers to paying most of your attention to impressions or the meanings and patterns of the information you get. Meaning you would rather learn by thinking a problem than by hands-on experience. Or you are interested, for example, in new things and what might be possible. And you think more about the future than the past. Okay? And you see the future as a great opportunity. And so Those are the manifestations, whether you are having the preference of sensing or intuition. Thinking or feeling is another preference of the MBTI. And thinking or feeling refers on how an individual prefers to make decisions, either thinking or using logic and analysis, or feeling, which uses the cognitive senses based on values or belief. So meaning to say, if you are a person who have thinking as a preference, you will say that when I make decision, I like to find the basic truth or principle to be applied, regardless of the specific situation involved. You will also say to yourself that I like to analyze pros and cons and then be consistent and logical in deciding. Okay? So, in here, you enjoy technical and scientific fields where logic is important. And you also notice most of the time inconsistencies because you look for logical explanation or solutions to most everything. Okay? And you also make decisions with your head and want to be fair. Now, how about feeling? A person who uses feeling will say to himself, I believe I can make the best decisions by weighing what people care and the point of views of persons involved in a situation. You will also say that I am concerned with values and what is the best for the people involved. And I like to do whatever will establish or maintain harmony. So feeling then, okay, will let a person say that you want people and you establish communications to them. And you are concerned with harmony. Okay? Aside from that, you will also look for what is important to others and express your concern for others. Yan. So it could be said that thinkers decide with their heads while feelers decide with their hearts. Ganda, no? So saan kayo dyan? Are you a thinker or are you a feeler? And finally, we have judgment or perception as a preference of the Myers-Briggs type indicator. We can also say judging or perceiving. This preference then refers on how an individual prefers to manage one's life, whether through judging, which means a planned and organized life, or perception, which has a more flexible approach to learning. So if you are a person who uses judgment in your life, you use your decision-making preference in your outer life. Okay? And to others, you seem to prefer a planned or orderly way of life. And you also like to have things settled and organized because you feel more comfortable when decisions are made and you like also to bring life under control as much as possible. On the other hand, if you are a person who uses perception in life, okay, you use your perceiving function in your outer life. And to others, you also seem to prefer a flexible and spontaneous way of life because you like to understand and adapt to the world rather than organize it. And others see you staying open to new experiences and information. Sometimes you use judgment, sometimes you use perception, but what weighs more? Are you a person that is more on using judgment in your life or more on using perception? Okay? So what weighs more? Is it judgment or perception? What a marvelous discussion we had, right? It is indeed very important to know thyself. Because as they say, growth, development, and the desire to achieve happiness are more easily attained when we are really capable of knowing who we are and what we want to be. As Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. With this, thank you for listening and good luck and God bless to your activities. And I can't wait to see you again next week. Thank you for watching. Bye.